Back to the nurseann.com podcast. We're at episode 12, and we're going to jump into chapter 12 of the published short story fiction drama series, The Mental Files, published on Amazon and read here for free. Chapter 12 is Back on the Ward. You're going to join the nurse and the patients and see if it's chaos or smooth sailing today and what's going to happen. If you want to get caught up, you can go back to the beginning of the podcast where I read chapter by chapter each podcast and then break it apart as it relates to our own life struggles and inner thought drama, and get some biblical prescriptions and wisdom and inspiration for this life. So we're going to jump into chapter 12. As I said, you can go back, or you can just get the complete series, complete season in one book, is The Mental Files First 6 Stories edition by Nurse Ann. That way you can get caught up and follow along on this podcast without having to go back and listen. But you did miss some good inspirational wellness on the other podcasts if you want to go back. If not, let's just jump right into The Mental Files, chapter 12. With a new day in sight, Nurse Angela came excitedly into work. She was happy that her groups with the patients were actually getting off the ground. She couldn't wait to hold another session. Even better was the fact that Julie and Joshua seemed to be making great progress on their treatment plans. Angela heard in the shift report that Josh even had a visit from his wife last night. And Julie had actually started talking more to the staff. During the group, the nurse led before lunch, the patients seemed engaged, and for once on the psych ward, no fights broke out that day. Stepping away from the group to check on something at the desk, she answered the incoming phone call. "Yo," growled the caller on the other line. "I'm looking for Julie." "Who's calling?" asked the bewildered nurse. "It's Carlos. I'm her boyfriend. I want to talk to her. I heard she was there," demanded the unexpected caller. Sir, I'm not allowed to give out that information without permission," replied the suspicious nurse. "Well, ask her then," Carlos insisted rudely. Sir, I'll have to get your number and call you back if I find out the information you want." "Yeah, I'll be waiting," retorted the street guy who had the nerve to call himself Julie's boyfriend. "What's that all about?" asked her coworker James, noticing the nurse looking shaken. "That Carlos guy, he sounds like bad news. He's looking for Julie. Things are going so well for her. I don't think we should tell him that she's here," suggested the protective nurse. "Hey, well, she's got her rights too," retorted the new technician. I know you're right, James, but she's so vulnerable right now, and he sounds like trouble," reasoned the experienced RN. "Oh, Angela, you're just so suspicious. Why don't you go back and lead your little group?" mocked her coworker. Trying to pull her composure back together, the shaken nurse went back and finished up her goals group with her patients. As she finished the activity, she noticed the caseworker Lita entering the unit. "She looks like she might have some good news," hoped the nurse. "Hey, Angela, you'll never believe it. I actually found a girls' boarding home that would be willing to take Julie. She can live there throughout her whole pregnancy and for a year after with her baby. Then they help them find a good living situation," gushed the excited caseworker. "Wow, that is great news," replied the nurse. "You made my day, probably my month. Thank you so much again, Lita. I'll see you tonight at church, and then we can meet at Applebee's before we go. I'm excited for you to meet my friend Kylina." "Great, I can't wait to meet her," responded the bearer of good news. Heading back to her office, Lita was excited for the girls' night out. Getting back in for her new caseload, she noticed 3 missed calls and messages on her phone. Clicking to listen, she was pleasantly excited that they were all from Leon. "Hey, beautiful, I miss you. Hope to see you tonight." When he finally got her on the line, he pleaded and begged for her to meet him again after work. Knowing she had the girls' night planned, she offered a compromise. "Well, I can only meet you for a little while," suggested Lita. "You got it, babe," replied her persistent caller. Meeting her confident date after work, Lita sat down for the quick meetup. The officer had taken the liberty to order her another girly drink. It was waiting for her when she sat down. "Oh, thanks, Leon, but I'll just have a water. I'm driving, and I have a night planned out with the girls," said the excited lady. "Oh, no," replied the disappointed officer. "I thought we could hang out all night. You know I miss you when you're not around." "Where are you and your lucky girlfriends going?" he asked. "My nurse friend invited me to her church with another friend of hers. First, we're going to Applebee's. I'm excited to have some new friends and maybe find a new church," relayed Lita. "Oh, wow. Church night," he mocked. "That's a bit much for me. Come on, Lita. When are you going to have some real fun?" "I actually really enjoy ministry activities, Leon. And you're welcome to come with me sometime," offered Lita. "No, that's not really my thing," replied her date. "But please text me when you get home so I know that you're okay." "Will do, Leon," replied Lita. After they ended their quick meeting, the elated caseworker rushed over to meet her friends at the restaurant. Not wanting to end his fun night, Officer Leon walked over to another table where his buddies were sitting. "Hey man, where's that cute lady that was sitting with you?" asked one of the guys who was watching a game on the big screen TV. "She ran off to church or something with her girlfriends," answered Leon. "What? Another church girl? Dude, you always seem to pick those good girls," laughed one of his buddies. "You know what, though? I think I really like this lady. She's classy. Has a good heart, too," defended the macho officer. "What? The great bachelor is falling in love? Who would believe that?" chided his friends. "Well, you better get your act together. You're definitely not what I'd call a saint," mocked his partner. "Look who's talking," retorted Leon. And that is the end of chapter 12, and we're going to go out on that chapter with this futuristic music from an indie artist. And then we're going to jump in now to the files of nurseann.com for more inspirational wellness and break apart this chapter, this reading, as it relates to our own life drama and inner thought struggles. So in chapter 12, of course, the nurse was back on the ward. Her groups were going off. She was advocating for and helping her patients. And the naive young lady that they had rescued off the street, who was battling frightening hallucinations, was starting to come around with her treatment and be involved. Unfortunately, an unexpected event, this street thug was now looking for her when things were going so well for her. And the nurse was really suspicious about that, but we don't know what's going to happen yet. But as far as our own life, I can say that we might be involved with projects at home, work, and or school, in our community, just in our own personal life, things that we're working on. And of course, we all know that we get unexpected hang-ups, trip-ups that want to delay or put obstacles in our path to the goals that we're trying to achieve. And for some reason, I'm reminded of a verse in Proverbs 2 when thinking about this story that talks about if you're a wise person and you see danger or evil coming, that the wise person hides himself or takes cover instead of being naive and foolish and just going right ahead and falling into that trap. Let's see, it looks like it's Proverbs 22:3. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. So pretty much thinking about the big picture, thinking ahead, looking at what might be going on. And here's another version, the CSB. A sensible person sees danger and takes cover, but the inexperienced keep going and are punished. And so another one, CEV, when you see trouble coming, don't be stupid and walk right into it. Be smart and hide. Okay, so I think we get the picture. But in this story, Julie, she's very naive, doesn't really know how to formulate the best plans, and her mind is playing tricks on her. So it's great that she has an advocate. She's getting therapy and treatment, and she does have advocate with her nurse and the staff. And hopefully they can help her not to walk into the trap with this dude that's looking for her. And just in our own life, we can try to avoid walking into dangerous situations and traps, even though sometimes we might see red flags and signs. Sometimes we kind of like the intrusion of that noise. But anyway, Proverbs is full of wisdom. God has a lot to say in prayer. When we ask him, he'll show us. And, getting the advice of wise people can help. And it's good to advocate for others when they don't know the full situation or they haven't had experience in dealing with those type of situations. To be an advocate, to be a sentinel, to be a defender of the weak. So that is the chapter for today, and just some wisdom for our own lives of thinking about the big plan ahead, looking at what might come up, and trying to avoid a dangerous path for ourselves and for others. So actually, we're going to go ahead now, as usual, and jump into a word puzzles devotional that might kind of relate to the situation. And once again, the word puzzles devotional is also published on Amazon by Nurse Ann. That's me. And that's interesting words linked to everyday life and inner thought struggles, and paired with biblical prescriptions to help you get your dose of wisdom and understanding and inspiration also. We're going to spin that wheel and see what word we're going to land on the word puzzles devotional. All right, so we're spinning, and it looks like we're going to land on the word puzzle devotional for today from that published devotional is R for ramification. Let's see what we're going to find out about that today. Ramification means a consequence of an action or event. Hindsight about our choices will usually reveal missed opportunities and choices we now regret. Consequences that have wounded not only our own life, but those we never meant to hurt. As we get older and hopefully more mature, sometimes we long to teach these lessons to others to help them avoid their own damaging results. Getting others to listen and agree can be a daunting endeavor. All throughout Scripture, we are given insight and wisdom that we would be wise to follow to have the best outcomes, not just for us, but the overflow for our loved ones. Galatians 6 advises us that whatever we reap, we will sow. Imagine planting a tiny seed in the ground. The reaping may eventually be greater and bigger than we could have imagined. With that outcome in mind, what choices will you plant today? Hopefully, we can have the better result displayed in Proverbs 12:15. A choice may seem right in the moment, but the end result may show us to be foolish, or we can choose the better way of listening to sound advice and be considered wise. So I hope you enjoyed the continuing drama of the mental files. I'm a nurse of 29 years and still going on the front lines of emergency and mental health, and I have a passion to advocate and encourage and inspire others. So we will jump into chapter 13 on the next podcast and the next word puzzles devotional, and jump into the files of nurseann.com for more inspirational wellness. So I just pray for us today to walk in wisdom, to seek God, to seek wisdom, and to also help others who might not have the same experience and knowledge, to be an advocate, to be a sentinel, and just to think about the outcome of our lives and help others. It's great to be a mentor, a disciple, a teacher. Everyone needs a little bit of mentoring, and it seems like sometimes they can be in short supply. So I hope that you can step up to that, and you will also find the help when you need it. So you have a great day, and I will see you on the next podcast at nurseann.com.